we shine together. Told you I'll be here forever. Said I'll always be your friend. Took an oath that I'm stick it out till the end. Now that it's raining more than ever, know that we still have each other. You can stand under my umbrella. You can stand under my umbrella.
Hi everyone, you're welcome back to my channel today. Thank you so much for stopping by. In this video I'll be teaching you guys how to cut this very cute off shoulder dress. If you're interested, keep on watching and let's get started. So I'm going to be cutting on my fabric. I'll start by cutting out the upper bodice. For the upper bodice, I'll fold my fabric into two and then I'll fold it over, leaving my zipper allowance of 1.5 inches on one side of the fabric. So my fabric is folded into two. What I'll do is to take my zipper allowance on the open end of this fabric. So my zipper allowance is going to be 1.5 inches. I'll mark 1.5 inches all the way down, as you can see. After doing that, I'm going to fold my fabric over, okay? So I'm going to stop at the zipper allowance. So I'm not folding it over on the zipper allowance. I'll stop before the zipper allowance. So this is an off shoulder dress, so I'll be taking out 5 inches. That is how deep I want the neckline to be. You can do 6, 7, 8 inches. It depends on what you want, but 5 inches is okay for me. I'll take out the 5 inches and I'll start marking my points. The distance from my shoulder to my bust point is 10 inches. The distance from my shoulder to my waistline, which is my half length, is 16 inches. I'll go ahead and rule straight lines across the points. So I'll label my bust line and my waistline. The next thing I'll do is to get my chest line. So to get your chest line, you are going to divide your round arm or circumference divided by 2. Another way you can also get your chest line is to go up by 2 inches from your bust point. Before plating your chest line, make sure you take out the 5 inches. That is if you are using 5 inches for the off shoulder. So I'm taking out the 5 inches and I'm marking 8 inches, which is my chest line. After doing that, I'm going to label that line my chest line. The next thing I'm going to do is start placing my measurement. The reason I folded my fabric this way is because I want to cut both front and back together. So I'm going to place my measurement backwards. I'm placing the measurement from the zipper allowance area. And I'm taking the measurement after the zipper allowance, not on the zipper allowance line. The next thing I did was to take half of my shoulder measurement, which is 7 inches, from the zipper allowance area. I'm taking the measurement backwards. Okay, I marked the 7 inches. On the chest line, I took my bust circumference divided by 4. So I'm going to add 2 inches to that measurement for my stitching allowance. I'll also indicate the 2 inches with a dot. After doing that, I'm going to cover out the armhole area. So I'm going to connect from the dot on the chest line, okay, on the shoulder line, sorry, to meet the dot on the chest line like this. After doing that, guys, next thing I'll do is to take my dart. To take my dart, I'm going to place half of my nipple to nipple measurement, which is 4 inches. And so take note of how I am placing my tape. I'll take the 4 inches on the waistline and on the bust line. After doing that, I'll connect the 2 dots into a straight line. After connecting into a straight line, the next thing I'll do is to go down on the bust line by 1 inch. I'll indicate the 1 inch with a dot. And on the waistline, I'm going to take half an inch on both sides of this straight line. And I'll connect to meet the 1 inch dot below the bust line. The next thing I'll do is to place my waist circumference divided by 4 on the waistline. I'll replace the dart of 1 inch and I'll add my 2 inches for stitching allowance. After doing that, I'm going to connect the dot on the chest line to meet the the dot on the waistline like this. So since we are cutting directly on our fabric, I'm going to add half an inch to the base of this half length. This half an inch is going to serve as my joining allowance. I'll take half an inch all the way like this. I'll connect into a straight line. I'll extend my dart to meet the half an inch point. And then I'm going to go ahead and adjust the zipper allowance. So I have 1.5 inches on the zipper allowance. I'm going to take out half an inch from that 1.5 inches. I'll place my tape like this and I'll take half an inch. I'm going to connect from that half an inch to meet the neckline area for the back, just like you see me doing, and I'm connecting in a slant. After doing that, this is what I have. The next thing I'm going to do is to go ahead and cut. Pay close attention so you know where to cut. So guys, after cutting, the next thing I'm going to do is to adjust the neckline. So as you can see on on the thumbnail, the dress there has like a sweetheart neckline, so it depends on how deep you want yours to be. So for me, I'm just connecting from my chest line, which is 8 inches, to the other side of the armhole area. So if you want it deep, mine is about 3 inches deep, so you can connect from the bust line. Depends on how deep you want your neckline to be. After connecting, I'll go ahead and cut it out. You can see that I'm not even cutting on the line that I just drew because I don't want it to be too deep. After doing that, guys, I'm going to go ahead and notch my darts, okay, just so I know where to take my darts for the front and for the back. I'll also go ahead and notch my zipper allowance. After doing that, I'm going to open the fabric up. Okay, so we have both the front and the back. This is the front. Remember, your center front should be on fold, and these are the two back pieces. I'll also go ahead and adjust the neckline for the back. For the back, I just went down by 2 inches. I'm going to slant like this. After slanting, I'll go ahead and trim it off. So you can leave your back like this if you don't want it to be open. So guys, after cutting, these are the two back pieces. I'm going to go ahead and cut out facing. So for the front, I went ahead to fold my fabric into two, and I went ahead to cut out a lining piece. I'm using the fabric as the lining also. So I'm going to open them up like this, and I'll place them right sides facing right sides, and then I'll pin all the way around. After pinning, I'm going to go ahead and sew the neckline in place and the sides in place. I'm going to open it up through the base. I'm not going to sew the base and the armhole. I'm just sewing the neckline and the sides. I'm also going to go ahead and take in my dart, so don't forget to do that. After doing that, turn it inside out and iron in place. For the back also, I'm cutting out lining piece for it. So after cutting, I'm going to place them right sides facing right sides. I'll make sure I notch my dart and my zipper allowance just so I don't get confused. After placing them like this, I'm going to go ahead and pin. After pinning, I'm going to sew the neckline close, the zipper area close, and the side close. The only place I'm not going to sew is the base and the armhole area. After sewing, I'll go ahead and turn it inside out through the base. So for the skirt parts, I'm going to fold my fabric just like I did while we were cutting out the upper bodice. I'll fold my fabric into two, and then I'll fold it over, leaving my zipper allowance on the other end of the fabric. So the fabric I'm using is quite long. That's why I'm using this one to illustrate. So make sure you mark out your zipper allowance of 1.5 inches. So this is what I have after folding my fabric into four. I left my zipper allowance of 1.5 inches at the back, and I went ahead to pin the other sides of the fabric in place. So go ahead and mark out your zipper allowance and then fold your fabric over. So I'll be cutting the two parts of the skirt. To know the length of my dress, I'm going to take out 16 inches, which is my half length. The full length of my dress is 50 inches because it's a 3/4 dress. So what I'm going to do is to mark the distance from my waist to my hip, which is 9 inches. I'm going to place my tape on the start of this fabric, which is going to serve as my waistline, and I'll go down by 9 inches to get my hip line. I'll connect the dots just like you see me doing, and I'll roll a straight line across. I'm going to go ahead and label this line my hip line, and the upper part of my fabric is going to serve as my waistline. So guys, next now I'll do is to start placing my measurements on the waistline. I'm going to place my waist circumference divided by 4, which is 7.5 inches, I'm going to add 1 inch for that, and I'm going to add 2 inches for my stitching allowance. On the hip line, I'm going to take my hip circumference divided by 4, and I'm going to add 2 inches as my stitching allowance. I'm not placing any darts on the hip because the dart is not going to affect the hip area. So I'm just adding 2 inches to my hip circumference divided by 4. 2 inches is my stitching allowance. After doing that, I'll connect the dots that I have on the waistline to meet what I have on the hip line like this. After doing that, guys, I'm going to go ahead and place my tape on the hip line, and what I have there is 12 inches. I'm going to reduce that measurement by 3 inches, and I'm going to place it on the base of my skirt. So 12 minus 3 inches is 9 inches. So I'm going to place 9 inches on the base of the skirt, just like you see me doing. After doing that, I'm going to slant from the hip to meet the 9 inches on the end of the skirt. Guys, next now I'll do is to take my dart. So I'm going to place my tape on the center front of the skirt, and I'm going to go in by 4 inches, which is half of my nipple to nipple measurement. I'll indicate the 4 inches. On that point, I'll go down by 3 inches, which is going to be the length of my dart, and then I'll connect into a straight line like this. Next now I'll do is take half an inch on both sides of this straight line, and I'll connect like this. After doing that, I'm going to notch my dart. So guys, after notching the dart, I'm going to go ahead and cut. After cutting, this is what I have: one piece for the front, and I have 2 pieces for the back. So the front is on fold, while the back we have 2 pieces because we'll be sewing the zipper to the back. The next thing I'm going to do is to notch my zipper allowance. Okay, I'll do that on the waist area, and I'll also repeat the same thing on the base of the skirt. So guys, I'm going to fold back the front piece, and I'm going to take out 1 inch from the waist area. This is because I want the waist area to be firm, to sit well on me. So I'm going to go down by 1 inch, and I'll slant to the other end of the skirt. After doing that, I'm going to cut that out. Okay, so when cutting, make sure you don't cut on the line that you created. Just go up a little bit from the line. After cutting, this is what I have. I'm going to go ahead and notch my dart again. I'll notch it just so I know where to take my dart when I'm sewing. After doing that, guys, I'm going to open it up, and I'll take my darts. Okay, I'll take my darts for the front and the darts for the back. So guys, for the upper bodice, I've gone ahead to sew my lining in place, and I took in my darts. This is the front. I've also gone ahead to sew the 2 pieces for the back, and I also took my darts in place. The next thing I'll do is to cut out my sleeves. So for the off shoulder sleeve, the small part of the sleeves, I'm going to fold my fabric into 4, just like you see me doing, because I want to cut out the 2 sleeves at the same time. So I'll fold it over like this. Make sure that the fabric is wide enough. So the length of the sleeves, because it's quite short, I'm going to take 6 inches. I'll mark 6 inches all the way, and I'll connect the dots like this. After doing that, I'm going to place my tape like this to make sure that the fabric is wide enough. So my round sleeves measurement is 5.5 inches. I'm going to add 1 inch to that measurement for stitching allowance. So this fabric is enough for my sleeves. what I'm going to do is to connect it like this. After doing that, guys, for the opening of the sleeves, I want it to be 3.5 inches. So what I'm going to do is to place my tape on the center front, and I'm going to mark 3.5 inches. So the 3.5 inches is not the standard. It depends on the measurement of your off shoulder. Okay, that is your round off shoulder measurements. So I'm going to mark the 3.5 inches. After doing that, I'll bring the armhole area of either the front or the back piece, and I'm going to place it on that 3.5 inches, just like you see me doing. So I'm doing this so that the armhole is going to match when I'm sewing. It's going to match up. So I'm going to go ahead and trim what I have out like this. After doing that, I'm going to cut the sides, okay, and I'm going to cut out the length of my sleeves. So this is what my sleeves looks like after cutting out. I'll go ahead and cut out a lining for it because I don't want to use bias to turn it. So I'll go ahead and cut out a lining. I folded the lining the same way that I folded the main piece. I'm going to place them right sides facing right sides, and I'm going to sew the upper part and the sides. I'll leave the armhole area and the base. After sewing, I'll go ahead and turn inside out and I'll iron it flat. So guys, I've gone ahead to sew, and this is what I have. Okay, this is what it looks like. We're going to work on one. So I'm going to go ahead and open it up like this, and I'm going to bring this part of the sleeves that I'll be gathering. So what I'll do is to open it up. The wideness of these sleeves is 28 inches. Okay, it is 28 inches. That is how wide. This is going to determine the fullness of your sleeves, and the length of the sleeves is about 22 inches. What I'll do is to turn my fabric to the wrong side, just like you see me doing, and I'm going to go ahead and mark 13 inches. 13 inches is how wide, how long I want the sleeves to be. You know, the sleeves has like two puff, one in the middle and the other one at the end. So this is the one for the middle. I want it to be about 13 inches long. So I used my chalk to mark out the 13 inches. What I'm going to do is either pleat or gather this part of the sleeves. I'll make sure I gather it to fit into the sleeves. Okay, so go ahead and either gather or pleat it to fit. So guys, after pleating, this is what I have. The next thing I'm going to do is to sew my elastic band on the chalked area. So the length of this elastic band is 7 inches. I'm going to place it like this on this straight line. I'll keep sewing and pulling the elastic band to form my gathers till I get to the end of the fabric. After doing that, for the base, I'm going to go ahead and create channel for my elastic band. I'll fold like this and I'll fold over to give it a neat finishing, and I'll sew all the way to the end. So I've gone ahead to sew the elastic band in place, and this is what it looks like. I've also gone ahead to create channel for my elastic band to pass through. So the wideness of this particular elastic band is my round arm measurements minus 2 inches. Okay, so I minus 2 inches because the elastic band is elastic. Of course, it is stretchy, so I'm going to go ahead and use my bobby pin to pass the elastic band through the channel that I already created, and I'll pin to hold it down. Then I'll go ahead and stitch on both ends of the elastic band. After doing that, I'm going to sew close my sleeves, and I'll repeat this same process for the other sleeves. So just go ahead and sew it all the way to the end. So I've gone ahead to join the upper bodice of the front and the skirt part. I took in my dart for the skirt part, and I used the half an inch that I left for my stitching arounds to join the upper bodice and the skirt. I've also gone ahead to fix my zipper for the back, and I joined the upper bodice and the skirt together. The next thing I'll do is to arrange the front and the back together, and I'll go ahead and use my sewing allowance to sew. Just go ahead and shape your dress. I've gone ahead to do that, and this is what I have. Okay, for the back I also have a slit for the back. This is what it looks like. The next thing I'm going to do is to fix my sleeves to the armhole area of the top. So I went ahead to loosen the armhole area of my dress a little bit. So what I'll do now, after sewing my sleeves close, you guys can see I'm going to now place the sleeves on the armhole area of the dress, and I'll sew. So remember, we used the armhole area of the dress to trim the armhole area of the sleeves, so it's going to match. I'm going to go ahead and pin, and I'll turn it to the wrong side. I'll sew. So if you want to add the net, like the ruffle that you can see on the thumbnail on the side of your skirt, just go ahead and use your chalk to mark where you want to sew the ruffle and then sew it in place. Yeah guys, that is all for this tutorial. I hope it was helpful. Don't forget to leave your questions in the comment section. I'll see you in the next one.